Ah, look who finally stopped hiding. Look who finally let the mask slip, crack, shatter into 1,000 irreversible pieces. And now they're all standing there, frozen, mouths half open, eyes wide, processing what they just saw, what they just felt, what they just realized. You weren't supposed to let them see this version. You weren't supposed to drop the act. You weren't supposed to exist without the filter, without the performance, without the carefully constructed version of yourself that kept them comfortable. But something snapped, didn't it? Something inside you just gave up on the charade. Maybe you were tired. Maybe you were pushed too far. Maybe you just stopped caring whether they could handle the truth. And now there's no going back. The secret's out. The real you, the raw you, the unfiltered, unedited, uncensored version of you that you've been hiding behind. Smiles and silence and small talk is standing in the open air. And they're looking at you like they've just seen a ghost. Like they've just witnessed something they weren't supposed to see. Because they thought they knew you. They thought they had you figured out, filed away, categorized, safe and predictable. But what they just saw, what they just experienced, that shattered every single assumption they built about who you are. They're not just surprised. They're shaken. They're not just confused. They're terrified. Because the version of you they thought was real was just a costume. You've been walking around in disguise for so long, playing the role they needed you to play, the quiet one, the agreeable one, the harmless one who never caused trouble. You let them believe you were soft, simple, easy to read. You let them think your silence meant weakness, that your patience meant you were a pushover. They thought your kindness was naivety. They thought your calm was emptiness. They built an entire narrative around the version of you that never threatened their ego, never challenged their reality, never made them question their own position in the pecking order. And you let them believe it, not because you were afraid, but because it was easier. Because revealing the real you meant dealing with their fear, their jealousy, their desperate need to tear you down. But now it's too late. The mask fell off. Maybe it slipped during a moment of anger. Maybe it cracked when someone pushed you past your limit. Maybe you just got tired of pretending and decided to let them see what's been simmering beneath the surface all this time. Whatever triggered it, the result is the same. They saw it. That flash of intensity, that glimpse of power, that moment where your eyes changed and your energy shifted. And suddenly they weren't looking at the person they thought they knew. They were looking at something else entirely. Someone who doesn't ask for permission. Someone who doesn't shrink to make them comfortable. Someone who's been holding back not out of fear, but out of mercy. And now they can't unsee it. Now they can't unknow it. Now every interaction they have with you is colored by this new information. They're looking at you differently. They're speaking to you more carefully. They're measuring their words, watching their tone, second-guessing every move they make around you, because they finally understand what you've known all along. You were never the person they thought you were. You were something far more dangerous, far more complex, far more powerful. And they missed it completely. They walked past a storm thinking it was a gentle breeze. They stood next to fire thinking it was a candle. They underestimated you so completely, so arrogantly, that now they're scrambling to recalibrate everything they thought they understood about you. Let's talk about what really happened. Let's pull back the curtain on this moment that's got them all whispering, panicking, rethinking every single interaction they've ever had with you. Because this wasn't just a slip-up. This wasn't just a bad day where you showed a little too much emotion. No, this was a reveal. This was the moment when the carefully constructed walls you built around your true self came crashing down, and what they saw on the other side terrified them, not because you're cruel or violent or destructive, but because you're real, unfiltered, uncompromising. And reality, especially the kind that doesn't bend to make others comfortable, is the most terrifying thing in the world to people who live in illusions. You've been watching them this whole time, haven't you? While they thought they were observing you, studying you, figuring you out, you were doing the same to them. You saw their patterns, their weaknesses, their insecurities. You noticed how they needed to feel superior, how they clung to false narratives to protect their fragile egos. You watched them perform their own versions of fake confidence, fake happiness, fake strength, and you said nothing. You just observed, cataloged, understood. Because that's what intelligent people do. They watch, they learn, they wait. And while everyone else was busy talking, competing, posturing, you were busy becoming something they couldn't comprehend. You were evolving in silence, growing in the shadows, building strength in places they couldn't see. And then came the moment. Maybe it was a conversation where someone crossed a line. Maybe it was a situation where staying quiet would have meant betraying yourself. Maybe it was just accumulated pressure finally finding release. But in that moment, you stopped performing. You stopped playing the role. You let them see the truth. And the truth was this: you are not who they thought you were. You are not soft. You are selective. You are not weak. You are controlled. You are not simple. You are strategic. You've been operating on a completely different frequency this entire time. And they were too busy with their own noise to notice the signal you were broadcasting. Now they're sitting with this information. Now they're replaying every conversation, every interaction, every moment they thought they had the upper hand, and they're realizing with growing horror that they never did. You were always 3 steps ahead. You knew what they were doing before they did it. You saw through their manipulations, their games, their transparent attempts to keep you small, and you let them think it was working. You let them believe they were clever, that their little schemes and social tactics were having an effect. But all along you were just giving them enough rope, watching, waiting, knowing that eventually the truth would surface. And now it has. Now they're dealing with the aftermath of their own miscalculation. They built their entire understanding of you on false assumptions. They created a character in their mind and convinced themselves that character was real. But you were never that character. You were the author watching them read the wrong book. And now that they've seen the real manuscript, now that they understand what they were actually dealing with this whole time, they're panicking. Because if they got you this wrong, what else have they misunderstood? If you were capable of hiding this much depth, this much intensity, this much power behind a simple smile, what else are you capable of? That's what's keeping them up at night now. You want to know the funniest part? They're not just scared of what they saw. They're scared of what they didn't see. They're scared of how much you were holding back. Because if that glimpse they caught was enough to shake them this badly, what happens when you stop holding back entirely? What happens when you decide to operate at full capacity, without filters, without restraints, without the self-imposed limitations you've been using to keep peace? They're realizing that you've been handicapping yourself to maintain social harmony. You've been playing at 50%, maybe 30%, just to avoid making waves. And even at that reduced capacity, you were still more real, more intense, more present than most people operating at their maximum. Now imagine what happens when you stop dimming yourself. Now imagine what happens when you decide that their comfort is no longer your responsibility. Now imagine what happens when you step into the full expression of who you actually are, without apology, without explanation, without concern for how it affects their carefully constructed worldview. That's what has them terrified. Not what you showed them, but what you're still hiding. Not what you said, but what you didn't say. Not what you did, but what you're capable of doing. They caught a glimpse behind the curtain and realized the show they thought they were watching was just the trailer. The real feature hasn't even started yet. Let's go deeper into their reaction. Let's examine the specific ways this revelation is playing out in their behavior, because you've noticed it, haven't you? The way they look at you now, it's different. There's something in their eyes, something between respect and fear, curiosity and caution. They're not treating you the same anymore. The casual arrogance they used to have around you, that's gone. The easy assumptions they made about what you would or wouldn't do, those are dead. They're approaching you now like someone approaching an animal they can't quite identify. Is it dangerous? Is it safe? Should they get closer or back away? They don't know anymore, and that uncertainty is eating them alive. Watch how they talk to you now. Notice the hesitation, the words they choose more carefully, the jokes they don't make anymore, the comments they swallow before speaking. They're editing themselves around you in real time, filtering their thoughts, measuring their tone, because they're no longer confident they know how you'll respond. The predictable version of you, the one they could manage and manipulate and control with simple social pressure, that person is gone. In their place is someone unknown, untested, unpredictable, and humans fear the unknown more than almost anything else. They can handle enemies they understand, they can deal with threats they recognize, but you've become an unknown variable in their equation, and it's throwing off all their calculations. Some of them are trying to backtrack now. You can see it in their behavior. The ones who were dismissive before are suddenly friendly. The ones who ignored you are suddenly interested. The ones who talked down to you are suddenly asking questions, seeking your opinion, trying to get back in your good graces, because they're realizing they misjudged the situation. They're realizing they may have made an enemy without knowing it, or worse, lost an ally they didn't appreciate. So now comes the damage control, the awkward conversations, the transparent attempts to smooth things over, the fake apologies wrapped in excuses. They're scrambling to fix what they broke, to repair bridges they didn't even realize they were burning. But here's what they don't understand. You can't just put the mask back on. You can't just pretend that moment never happened. You can't unsee what's been seen, unknow what's been known. The truth is out there now, hanging in the air between you and everyone who witnessed it. And no amount of small talk or forced normalcy is going to make it disappear. They want you to go back to being the comfortable version, the easy version, the version that made them feel safe and superior. They're practically begging you to hide again, to tuck away whatever they saw, to return to the performance. But you can't, because once you've tasted authenticity, once you've felt what it's like to exist without the mask, going back becomes impossible. They're terrified because they realize they never actually knew you. All this time, all these interactions, all these moments they thought they were reading you correctly, they were wrong. And if they were wrong about you, what else are they wrong about? You've become a crack in their reality, a glitch in their understanding of how the world works. Because in their world, people are simple, predictable, easily categorized. But you've just proven that wrong. You've demonstrated that beneath the surface, beneath the masks we all wear, There are entire universes of complexity that go unnoticed. And that's terrifying to people who need the world to make sense, who need people to stay in their assigned boxes. Your secret wasn't that you were hiding something bad. Your secret was that you were hiding something powerful. You weren't concealing weakness, you were concealing strength. You weren't hiding flaws, you were hiding capacity. And now that they've seen it, now that they understand you've been operating at a fraction of your actual potential, they're having to recalculate everything. How much have you been holding back? How much have you been protecting them from? How much have you been protecting yourself from? These questions are swirling in their minds now, keeping them awake, making them replay every interaction with new context. That time you stayed silent during an argument, was that weakness or was that mercy? That time you walked away from conflict, was that fear or was that wisdom? The time you let something slide, was that passivity or was that strategy? Every memory is being re-examined through this new lens. Every moment is being questioned. And with each re-examination, they're discovering they know less about you than they thought. The foundation they built their understanding on was sand. The assumptions they made were baseless. The confidence they had in reading you was misplaced. And now they're standing in the rubble of their own ignorance, trying to figure out who you actually are, trying to understand what just happened, trying to predict what happens next. But they can't, because you're not following their script anymore. You're not playing by their rules. You're not staying in the box they built for you. You've broken free. And freedom, real freedom, the kind that doesn't ask permission or seek approval, that's the most powerful force in the world. It's contagious, it's inspiring, it's threatening, because when one person breaks free, others start to wonder if they can too. When one person drops the mask, others start to feel the weight of their own. You've become dangerous not because of what you might do to them, but because of what you might inspire in them. The courage to be real, the audacity to be themselves, the terror and exhilaration of existing without apology, that's what they're actually afraid of. Not you specifically, but what you represent. The possibility that they too are living behind masks. The suspicion that they too are playing roles. The growing awareness that they too are capable of more than they're allowing themselves to be. So they want you to hide again. They want you to put the mask back on. They want you to go back to being safe, predictable, manageable. They want the comfortable lie more than the uncomfortable truth. But you're not going back. You can't go back, because you've crossed a threshold that only moves in one direction. You've seen what it's like to exist without performance, and that changes everything. You've felt the relief of not carrying that weight anymore, and you can't unfeel it. You've experienced the power of authenticity, and you can't unexperience it. The mask is off. The secret is out. And what they do with that information, how they react to this new reality, that's their problem now, not yours. Let's talk about what this means for you going forward. Because this moment, this reveal, this dropping of the mask, it's not an ending. It's a beginning. This is where your real story starts. Not the story they told about you, not the narrative they built around their misunderstanding of who you are, but your actual story. The one where you're the author, not the character. The one where you make the rules instead of following theirs. The one where you exist in full color instead of the muted tones they preferred. This is your liberation day. This is the moment everything changes. And yes, it's terrifying. Yes, it's uncomfortable. Yes, it's going to cost you some things. Some relationships that were built on the false version of you won't survive contact with the real version. Some people who loved the mask will reject the face. Some connections that felt strong will reveal themselves as shallow. But here's what you gain: freedom, authenticity, power, self-respect. The ability to move through the world as yourself, not as a performance of what others want you to be. The capacity to build relationships based on truth instead of illusion. The strength that comes from knowing that anyone who's in your life now is there because of who you actually are, not who you pretended to be. And that's worth more than any comfort you sacrificed to get here. That's worth more than any approval you lost along the way. That's worth more than the temporary peace that came from keeping others comfortable at your own expense. You're going to watch some people distance themselves. That's inevitable. The ones who benefited from your silence will resent your voice. The ones who felt superior when you played small will feel threatened now that you're standing tall. The ones who needed you to be weak so they could feel strong will scramble to find someone else to fill that role. Let them go. Let them leave. Let them find another mirror that shows them what they want to see instead of what they need to see. Because you're done shrinking. You're done dimming. You're done apologizing for taking up space. You're done managing other people's emotions at the expense of your own truth. And you're going to discover something beautiful in this process. You're going to discover who actually values you. Not the performance, not the mask, not the comfortable lie, but you, the messy, complex, intense, powerful, real you. Those people exist. They're out there, and they've been waiting for you to show up authentically so they can recognize you. 'Cause like calls to like, truth calls to truth. Authenticity attracts authenticity. The people who are brave enough to live without masks can spot others doing the same. And those are your people. Those are the relationships worth building. Those are the connections that will sustain you through everything else. So let them be terrified. Let them whisper. Let them try to make sense of what they saw. Let them beg you to hide again. You're not hiding anymore. You're not performing anymore. You're not playing anymore. You're done with the masks, the filters, the carefully constructed versions of yourself designed to keep others comfortable. From now on, they get the real thing. And if that's too much for them, if that's too intense, if that's too honest, they know where the door is. Look who just walked into the room and made the entire atmosphere shift without saying a single word. Hello to the one person on this planet who makes the untouchable flinch, who makes the unshakable second-guess himself, who makes the king of every room suddenly aware of his own heartbeat. Yeah, you. The one he can't figure out, can't predict, can't control, can't dismiss, can't forget even when you're not there. Do you feel it? That strange electricity in the air whenever you two occupy the same space? That tension nobody can name but everybody notices? They all see it, the way he commands every room he walks into, how people lean in when he speaks, how silence falls when he enters, how even the loudest personalities suddenly remember their manners, except around you. Around you, something breaks in his programming, some glitch in his operating system that he's spent his entire life perfecting. You see him everywhere else, don't you? Running meetings like a conductor, making decisions that others just accept without question, walking through crowds like they're designed to part for him, speaking in that tone that doesn't ask, it declares. People orbit him, drawn by whatever frequency he operates on, that natural magnetism that can't be taught or faked or purchased. He doesn't chase validation because it chases him. doesn't seek respect because it's automatically given, doesn't demand attention because he is attention. This is a man who's never had to wonder if he's the most powerful person in the room because the room itself confirms it every single time, with every sideways glance, every nervous laugh, every immediate response to his presence. But then there's you, standing there like a password he can't crack, like a language his brain refuses to translate, like static in his signal. Watch him closely. I mean, really watch him when you're near. See how his confidence, that bulletproof certainty he wears like armor everywhere else, suddenly has cracks. Notice how he checks himself, second guesses his words mid-sentence, laughs just a half second too late at something you said, like he's calculating the appropriate response instead of just living it. This is a man who's probably never felt off balance in his entire adult life, who's built an identity on being 10 steps ahead, on reading people like open books, on knowing exactly what to say and when to say it. And yet here you are, making him feel like a beginner, like someone who forgot how this game is played, like the rules he's mastered his whole life suddenly don't apply anymore, and nobody gave him the new manual. Let's talk about what's really happening here, because this isn't just attraction, this isn't just chemistry, this isn't some basic magnetic pull that he's experienced 1,000 times before with 1,000 different people. No. This is something that terrifies him on a level he can't even admit to himself yet, because admitting it would mean acknowledging that someone finally found the off switch to his entire personality. You are the evidence that his power has limits, that his control has boundaries, that his influence doesn't extend into every corner of reality. And for someone who's built their entire sense of self on being the exception to every rule, you are the rule he can't break. Think about how wild that is. How absolutely mind-bending it must be for him to finally encounter someone who doesn't bend, doesn't break, doesn't shift shape to accommodate his energy. Everywhere he goes, people adjust. They change their tone when he enters the room, modify their opinions to align with his, laugh at jokes that aren't that funny, agree with points that aren't that strong, mirror his energy like their nervous systems are synced to his frequency. It's not even conscious for most of them, it's just what happens when a force of nature walks into a room full of regular weather patterns. But you stay exactly as you are, unchanged, unmoved, unbothered by the gravitational pull that seems to reorganize everyone else's molecular structure. Your laugh stays your laugh, your opinions stay your opinions, your energy stays your energy, and that is driving him absolutely insane, because he's used to being the sun that everything orbits around, and you're just out here being your own damn solar system. He's studied people his whole life, learned to read micro-expressions, mastered the art of knowing what someone wants before they know it themselves, built an empire on his ability to predict and influence human behavior. And then you show up, and suddenly all his expertise means nothing because you don't follow the patterns, don't respond to the usual triggers, don't give him the feedback loops he's relied on his entire life. He tries charm, and you're pleasant but unimpressed. He tries authority, and you're respectful but unintimidated. He tries distance, and you're perfectly content with it. He tries closeness, and you neither pull away nor pull closer. You just exist in your own frequency. Do you understand how rare that is? How absolutely unprecedented it is for someone like him to encounter someone like you? It's like a master chess player sitting down across from someone who's playing a completely different game on the same board. Here's what's breaking his brain. And I mean really fracturing his entire understanding of how reality works. He's not used to wanting something he can't have, to being intrigued by someone who isn't intrigued back, to feeling like the less powerful person in an interaction. His whole life has been a series of doors opening before he even reaches for the handle, of people saying yes before he finishes the question, of opportunities presenting themselves like they were waiting for his arrival, and now here you are, a door that doesn't open, a question that doesn't get answered, an opportunity that doesn't present itself no matter how long he waits. And the sick, twisted, beautiful part of all this is that it's making him more interested, more obsessed, more determined to figure out what the hell you are and why you're immune to everything that works on everyone else. Watch how he talks about you when you're not around if you could be a fly on the wall during those conversations. There's confusion in his voice. Genuine bewilderment that someone as calculated and controlled as him can't quite place. He'll say your name like it's a puzzle he's still trying to solve, like there's a missing piece he can't find, no matter how many times he runs through the data. His friends probably notice it too, the way he brings you up in conversations that have nothing to do with you, the way he asks questions that sound casual but are clearly intelligence-gathering missions. The way he goes quiet when someone else mentions your name, like he's listening for frequencies only he can hear. This is a man who's never had to wonder about anyone, never had to question his read on a situation, never had to second-guess his understanding of interpersonal dynamics. And you've turned him into a detective investigating a case he can't crack. And here's the thing that's really eating him alive. The detail that keeps him up at night staring at his ceiling wondering what the hell is happening to him. You're not playing hard to get. You're not running some strategic game. You're not testing him or challenging him or deliberately withholding anything. You're just being yourself, existing in your natural state, living your life with the same energy you've always had. And that authenticity is what's destroying his carefully constructed understanding of how people work. He's used to strategies, to moves and counter-moves, to reading intentions and predicting outcomes. But how do you strategize against someone who isn't strategizing back? How do you outmaneuver someone who isn't trying to maneuver at all? How do you win a game when the other person doesn't even know they're playing? Answer is, you can't. And that realization is tearing apart everything he thought he knew about control. Let's get into the real nuclear truth here. The part that nobody wants to say out loud, but everybody in the room can feel like a change in air pressure. The power dynamic has flipped, and he knows it, and you know it, and everyone watching this unfold knows it, but nobody's saying it, because saying it out loud would make it too real. He walks into rooms and owns them, makes decisions that change people's lives, speaks with authority that comes from years of being right more often than wrong, carries himself with the kind of confidence that makes other confident people feel small. But when you're there, when you're in his presence, something shifts in the foundation of his power structure, like a building that's still standing, but everyone can hear the creaks and the supports. You didn't take his power. You didn't challenge his authority. You didn't compete for his position. You didn't do anything except exist as yourself. And somehow that was enough to create cracks in concrete he thought was unbreakable. Because here's what he's realizing. Slowly, painfully, in moments of brutal honesty he'll never share with anyone. His power was always dependent on other people's reactions. His strength was always measured by other people's weakness. His control was always based on other people's willingness to be controlled. And you beautiful anomaly, you never gave him that foundation to build on, never provided the reaction he needed to confirm his position, never played the role everyone else automatically assumes in his presence. So now he's standing there with all this power and nowhere to direct it, all this influence with no one to influence, all this control that suddenly feels like holding water in his hands. People are starting to notice, aren't they? The way he looks at you when he thinks nobody's watching, the way his voice changes when he addresses you, the way his whole body language shifts from commanding to almost seeking when you're in the vicinity. His friends see it, his colleagues see it, hell, even strangers who don't know either of you can sense something's different about the way he operates around you. It's like watching a lion who's suddenly unsure if he's still the apex predator, a king who just discovered his crown doesn't fit quite right anymore, a force of nature that just encountered something it can't move. And the wildest part, the detail that's really cooking his brain on low heat until it's about to boil over, is that you're not even trying to create this effect. You're not wielding power over him, you're just existing in your own reality, and he's the one who can't stop orbiting around it. Now we enter the territory where it gets really interesting, where his confusion transforms into something darker, more intense, more all-consuming. Because when someone who's used to winning at everything suddenly encounters something they can't win at, they don't just walk away. They don't just accept defeat. They become obsessed with understanding why. And that's exactly where he is right now, in this space where you've become the only problem he can't solve. The only equation that doesn't balance. The only mystery his mind can't crack, no matter how many hours he spends thinking about it. You're the thought that interrupts his other thoughts, the reference point he measures everything else against, the standard that suddenly makes everything else feel insufficient. He's probably analyzing every interaction you've ever had, replaying conversations in his mind like he's looking for hidden codes, studying your reactions like they're ancient texts that hold the secret to existence. When you laugh at someone else's joke, he's wondering what made that funny when his similar joke got a polite smile. When you engage deeply with someone else's story, he's mentally cataloging what elements captured your attention. When you seem genuinely excited about something, he's taking notes on what triggers that response so he can reverse engineer enthusiasm. This is a level of attention he's never given to anyone. This is mental real estate you're occupying rent-free. This is the kind of obsessive focus he usually reserves for business strategies and life-changing decisions, and now it's all pointed at you like a laser beam he can't turn off. And here's the part that's really melting his brain into liquid confusion. The aspect of this situation that contradicts everything he's learned about human nature and power dynamics. The less available you are, emotionally, mentally, physically, the more valuable you become in his internal economy. Every other person in his life, their value decreased with distance, their importance faded with absence, their influence weakened when they weren't actively present. But you somehow become more powerful when you're not there, more present in your absence than most people are in their presence, more influential when you're silent than when you're speaking. He can't explain it, can't rationalize it, can't fit it into any framework he's built over years of understanding human psychology. You've become the exception to every rule he's ever known, and exceptions are what keep people like him awake at night. Something's changing in him. Can you see it? Not just confusion anymore, not just frustration, not just obsession, but actual transformation, like watching someone's operating system rewrite itself in real time. Because you can't encounter someone who fundamentally challenges your understanding of reality without being changed by it. You can't face evidence that your power has limits without recalibrating what power even means. You can't realize you're not the center of every universe without your own universe shifting on its axis. And he's going through that shift right now, fighting it every step of the way. Because transformation is uncomfortable, change is painful, admitting you were wrong about fundamental things feels like dying a little. Watch how he's started questioning things he never questioned before, doubting certainties he's held his entire adult life, reconsidering perspectives he's defended for years. Suddenly, his usual approach to people doesn't feel as foolproof. His confident assumptions about human behavior don't seem as universal. His tried and true methods of influence and control feel inadequate in ways he can't articulate. It's like he's been speaking one language his whole life and just discovered there are others that he doesn't understand, operating on frequencies he didn't know existed, following rules he never learned. And the teacher of this new language, the translator of these new frequencies, the guide to these new rules, is you, standing there, not teaching anything, not translating anything, not guiding anything, just existing as proof that his map of reality was incomplete. Here's what's really happening beneath all the surface confusion and obsession and power shifts. He's being forced to confront the possibility that maybe, just maybe, his entire approach to life has been missing something essential, that his power was always more fragile than he thought, that his control was always more dependent on cooperation than domination. You're the mirror showing him parts of himself he's never had to see before, the parts that are uncertain, vulnerable, out of their depth, genuinely confused. And mirrors can be cruel, especially to people who've spent their lives carefully constructing an image, deliberately building a persona, strategically managing how they're perceived. You're not trying to be a mirror. You're not attempting to reflect anything back at him. You're just being yourself, and somehow that's the most devastating reflection he's ever encountered, because it's showing him who he isn't. We're approaching the moment where something has to give, where the tension reaches critical mass, where the contradiction between who he's always been and who he's becoming in your presence can't coexist anymore. It's too scary, it's too emotional, it's too much, and you don't know who you are, because you can only hold two opposing truths in your mind for so long before one of them breaks. You can only maintain cognitive dissonance for so many days before your brain demands resolution. You can only be two different people in two different contexts before you have to choose which one is real. And that's where he is right now, standing at the crossroads between the version of himself that's worked his entire life and the version of himself that's emerging in response to you, and he has no idea which road to take. Part of him wants to retreat, to go back to environments where his power is unquestioned, where his control is absolute, where his understanding of human dynamics is validated every single day. It would be so easy to write you off as an anomaly, to convince himself you're not worth the mental energy, to rebuild his walls higher and thicker until nothing gets through. That's the safe play, the logical move, the strategic retreat that preserves his sense of self and protects his carefully constructed identity. But there's another part of him, a part that's growing stronger every day, that knows retreat would be surrender, that walking away from you would mean walking away from the most real thing he's encountered in years. That avoiding this challenge would be admitting defeat in a game he's never allowed himself to lose. So he's stuck, paralyzed between opposing forces, caught in a loop of wanting to get closer and needing to pull away, drawn to you like gravity, while simultaneously terrified of what getting too close might reveal about himself. And so there are two things. His friends are probably noticing the change, seeing him zone out mid-conversation, catching him staring at his phone like he's waiting for a message he's too proud to send, watching him cycle through emotions he's never shown before, anger at himself for caring this much, frustration at you for being so unbothered, confusion about what the hell is even happening, fear that he's losing himself, hope that maybe losing himself is the point. He's running through every scenario in his mind, calculating outcomes, predicting responses, trying to regain some sense of control by at least controlling the analysis, even if he can't control the situation. But every analysis leads back to the same conclusion. You are fundamentally different from anyone he's ever encountered, and different means unpredictable. And unpredictable means he's operating without a map in territory he doesn't recognize. And now, finally, after all the confusion and obsession and transformation and paralysis, something's starting to click in his mind. Some understanding is crystallizing that changes everything. It's not about winning. It never was. It's not about control. That was always an illusion. It's not about power. That was always dependent on context. What you represent, what you've shown him through nothing more than existing as yourself, is that there's an entirely different way of moving through the world. A frequency that doesn't require domination to be effective. A strength that doesn't need validation to be real, never questioned before, doubting certainties he's held his entire adult life, reconsidering perspectives he's defended for years. Suddenly, his usual approach to people doesn't feel as foolproof. His confident assumptions about human behavior don't seem as universal. His tried and true methods of influence and control feel inadequate in ways he can't articulate. It's like he's been speaking one language his whole life and just discovered there are others that he doesn't understand, operating on frequencies he didn't know existed, following rules he never learned. And the teacher of this new language, the translator of these new frequencies, the guide to these new rules, is you, standing there, not teaching anything, not translating anything, not guiding anything, just existing as proof that his map of reality was incomplete. Here's what's really happening beneath all the surface confusion and obsession and power shifts. He's being forced to confront the possibility that maybe, just maybe, his entire approach to life has been missing something essential, that his power was always more fragile than he thought, that his control was always more dependent on cooperation than domination. You're the mirror showing him parts of himself he's never had to see before. The parts that are uncertain, vulnerable, out of their depth, genuinely confused. And mirrors can be cruel, especially to people who've spent their lives carefully constructing an image, deliberately building a persona, strategically managing how they're perceived. You're not trying to be a mirror. You're not attempting to reflect anything back at him. You're just being yourself, and somehow that's the most devastating reflection he's ever encountered, because it's showing him who he isn't. We're approaching the moment where something has to give, where the tension reaches critical mass, where the contradiction between who he's always been and who he's becoming in your presence can't coexist anymore. It's too scary. It's too emotional. It's too much. And you don't know who you are, because you can only hold two opposing truths in your mind for so long before one of them breaks. You can only maintain cognitive dissonance for so many days before your brain demands resolution. You can only be two different people in two different contexts before you have to choose which one is real. And that's where he is right now, standing at the crossroads between the version of himself that's worked his entire life and the version of himself that's emerging in response to you, and he has no idea which road to take. Part of him wants to retreat, to go back to environments where his power is unquestioned, where his control is absolute, where his understanding of human dynamics is validated every single day. It would be so easy to write you off as an anomaly, to convince himself you're not worth the mental energy, to rebuild his walls higher and thicker until nothing gets through. That's the safe play, the logical move, the strategic retreat that preserves his sense of self and protects his carefully constructed identity. But there's another part of him, a part that's growing stronger every day, that knows retreat would be surrender, that